My God, it's been like a month, maybe a month and a half, maybe even 2 months. But we are back with the exclusive film and video report. James Rana once again joining me on the other side of this desk. He's returned. He's well-dressed but angry.
Hello, world. There's a song that we're singing.
It's all, yeah, you're absolutely right, because today we're going to be talking about an early 70s phenomenon, the Partridge Family, which was a show and also a band at the same time.
That show was kind of the bane of your existence, because I heard you got tormented as a child.
I did. I hit my glasses.
That's another reason you got tormented as a child.
I was clumsy. No, because I had red hair, and when I was young, it was really red. Like bright red, like Ronald McDonald red. And at school, everything was, it's Danny Partridge. Because it was the 70s and the hair was long, too. So it made it even worse.
Now, of course, I got into the Partridge Family when it was syndicated in the 80s.
I see. Yes, that's right, because you're a young'un.
No, it's not even that, but my question, I have a few questions. What was how many years was the show running?
I think it ran from 70 to 74. I think it was 4 seasons, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, I saw that back around 10 years ago, they were doing those behind-the-scene movies.
Sure.
And they did the Partridge Family, which I enjoyed, but they kept on saying that they and the Brady Bunch were enemies.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think because at the time when the Partridges started, the Bradys were sort of getting into, we're going to form a group and we're going to do records too. And there might have been some kind of rivalry, but the Partridges were clearly far more commercially successful than the Bradys were. Because the Partridges had number one record. The Bradys never had a number one record.
Really? They actually had a number one record?
The Partridges, sure.
Now,
the first single, I Think I Love You, went to number one.
Okay, so now we know David Cassidy, of course, doing vocals, but did were the others dubbed aside from Shirley Jones?
Shirley participated a little bit in the vocals. She would be, because the group that actually did the music, or the singers anyway, and the musicians, were a group called the Love Generation. That was the name of their... They had a song in 1967 called It's a Groovy Summertime. Okay. And they had other songs, too. In fact, the very first few episodes of The Partridge Family are just their vocals. There was no David Cassidy's lip-syncing to someone else's voice.
Okay, wow.
Because by the time they went into production, they had everything ready to go. They had the music ready to go.
Yeah.
And, David Cassidy, no one had thought of him to be an actual lead singer. And pretty early in the production, but certainly not early enough, he went to them and said, I can sing. And they said, okay, well, we'll try you out. And then the minute they heard him, they said, well, this is gold. The kid can really sing. He has a very distinctive voice. So in the first few episodes of The Partridge Family, you'll see sometimes there are songs where it's David does a line and then the other male singer does a line. But on the show, he's lip-syncing both parts, so it's very confusing.
Very similar to when Greg Brady had to be Johnny Bravo and he was being lip-synced.
There you go.
Now, this was a vehicle, really, for Shirley Jones, Academy Award winner now.
Oh, yeah. No one knew that David Cassidy was going to take off like he did.
Now, this was really for the Cowsills, correct?
Well, initially it was supposed to be, or they approached the Cowsills about doing a TV series, but they didn't want the real-life parents on the show. They wanted actors to play their parents and to have the Cowsill kids. And the Cowsills said, no way, we're a family or that's it. And so they said, all right, we'll just make our own Cowsills. So that's kind of what they did. They made the Partridge Family. The idea that they were sort of a garage band.
Yeah.
And that's played up a lot in the first season, that they're working on these songs. I like the fact that, you really have to suspend your disbelief when you're watching this. Because you're hearing adult voices, and then you're looking at Tracy, and maybe she's 5, and she's banging on the tambourine, but it's not even on the beat or whatever. You could sort of think that maybe Laurie was actually contributing. I don't think Susan Day ever sang on any of the records or had anything to do with them. It was really just David and Shirley.
The first episode, it's one of those perfect pilot episodes, but things happen a little too quickly. Like, Shirley Jones is narrating it in the opening.
Yes.
Her husband had just recently died. She's working as a realtor.
Right.
And they need extra money, and the band is...
Well, Danny goes and gets Reuben Kincaid, who might be one of the greatest characters in the history of television.
My favorite character. He keeps on bothering Mr. Kincaid. Mr. Kincaid's at a hotel room sleeping.
Yeah, and that set the tone for their relationship throughout the entire series. In fact,
Dave Madden.
The show itself, I think, really shines when it's Danny and Reuben Kincaid having their back and with Danny as like the slick huckster.
It's a great I think one of my favorite is the episode when Mr. Kincaid has to stop smoking and Danny needs to go on a diet.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
And they're like getting on each other's nerves. Now, I
remember the skunk on the bus.
I remember that.
And I remember that Jodie Foster punching Danny.
Yeah.
And that was because she secretly liked him.
Yeah.
That was a valuable lesson to learn. I kept waiting for women to go around punching me, and it never happened.
Now, of course, there was a cast change.
Oh, yeah, poor Tommy. Well, the original kid,
he had
who
ADD.
sort of looks sickly to me. But that original kid apparently was not much of an actor. That he was just like a genuine kid. And in fact, if you watch the first episode on DVD, which I have the first season of Partridge Family on DVD, Danny Bonaducci does commentary for the first episode.
That must be scary.
Which is very, very funny. I have to say, it's very everything else that you know about Danny, that he's nuts or whatever, but the commentary is really good, but brutal. When they show a close up of Tommy, he goes, "Oh, things didn't end well for this kid."
In the movie, like in that TV movie, they got stationed, like they had a job transfer to Texas, and like the producer's like, yes. Go to Texas.
Oh, really? Oh, is that what happened?
The kid is out of control. He's running. He's a little boy, and he's way out of control.
Yeah. He wasn't a trained actor. He was just a little kid. So they got the other Tommy in. And I forget his name. It's like Brian something.
Now, I have a question. I know in the 70s, your heart belonged to Caroline Ellis. What about Susan Day?
You know what? It would surprise you to know that I was not really into Susan Day.
Really?
You know why? Because Laurie Partridge was a buzzkill on that show.
Oh, come
Anytime
on.
anything fun was happening, she was like, talking about women's lib or... She was cute, don't get me wrong. I would have liked her character more if she wasn't such a Debbie Downer,
but she had a huge crush on David Cassidy.
In real life, yeah, and that's according to Shirley Jones' recent book, which is, it's more about Shirley Jones than you would ever want to know. I did like the fact that certainly David Cassidy, as a teen idol, was a guy that girls all over the world went crazy over.
Yeah.
But on the show, Keith Partridge was kind of a loser. He was always striking out with women, which I thought was pretty smart.
But then he'd be on stage, all these women are screaming.
I mean, the Partridge Family as a group didn't tour, as far as I know, but he certainly toured, David Cassidy.
He did,
and he had his solo records. I mean,
then he went to Broadway.
Of course, later on he went to Vegas and he did all that stuff, but he had Partridge Family albums, which were big.
Okay, so he made a lot of money.
And then he also had solo albums happening simultaneously.
Did he get any movies in the 70s?
I don't know. I know he had another TV show after the Partridge Family. Wasn't it David Cassidy, P.I.? He was like a rock detective, if I'm not mistaken.
So but long before Cop Rock. Remember
Yeah.
that one?
Oh, yeah. No,
Long
I don't think he sang on the show, but he was sort of like, you know what it was? It was the exact same plot as 21 Jump Street.
Okay.
Where he was a cop, but he could pass for a youngster.
I'm just curious. I'm wondering, why he didn't get a movie contract, or I'm wondering if he even at least did an after-school special.
His whole thing was his music.
It's these guys like him turn down stuff.
Yes, because their music is all important.
If he was here, he would probably tell us some movies, and he wouldn't be lying that he turned down.
Oh, I'm sure. And he probably, he probably could care less because the most important thing to him was cranking out those records. And of course, in 1990, he had a comeback song. Because his records were, his popularity waned here in the U.S., obviously, once Partridge Family went off. But in Great Britain, it continued. He played like Wembley Stadium. He was making records all throughout the 80s. But in the 90s, he had a comeback hit with a song called Lying to Myself.
Now, there is this real life, the fact that Shirley Jones is his stepmother.
Oh, yeah.
How was that working relationship?
Apparently really good. Apparently they weren't really close until they started doing the show. The show actually brought them closer together. Susan Day did, of course, L.A. Law after that.
She was great on L.A. Law. She did L.A. Law, then she did another show, and she has actually stopped acting. She has not acted in 10 years.
I remember the one where she was picking up the radio in her braces. There was that episode where they were trying to play songs, but she was playing all the wrong notes because she was hearing music in her braces.
The episode that always sticks with me is the episode when they played a prison. And the mother says, Mrs. Partridge, in my heart, we're all prisoners. And for some reason, they have to spend the night in jail. I don't know why. Something happened, so they have to spend the night. And Keith, he's staying in a cell, which would never be allowed. And he sees some.
I hope he was by himself. Because if Keith Partridge was in a jail cell with another guy.
No, he's in the cell.
It would be the end of Keith Partridge.
He's in a cell with Danny and Mr. Kincaid.
Mom, something happened to me last night.
And there are these lyrics on the wall, and he has his guitar. He's like, "Oh, these are great lyrics."
He's writing. So he
and a prisoner had written those lyrics, and the idea is this tough prisoner actually has the heart of a poet. I don't
of
understand
course.
the episode. They did an episode.
Doesn't somebody want to be wanted? That's my song.
You actually would have wanted to
On
see
your knees, Keith Partridge.
You would rather have him see him in jail with that.
No, I mean that would be the end of the whole series, and then he would be dealing with that throughout. That terrible thing that happened in prison.
Remember the episode when Danny Bonaducci and Dave Madden appeared on Married with Children?
Yes,
That
was much later on. Sure, in the 90s. Yeah.
I love their unit. I love their costumes. The big puffy shirts, the big puffy.
Oh yeah, well they're sort of like Paul Revere and the Raiders go to Vegas or something, and I remember in the first episode I think they play for like dying children. I think in the first episode, like if you weren't on their side already, after you see them perform, and the kids are isolated behind glass watching the Partridge Family perform.
My final question: was there ever an episode where Mrs. Partridge went on a date?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I remember there was an episode with a young Rob Reiner played Lori's date. She got involved with because
An
Lori,
older guy. She
No, he wasn't that older. He was supposed to be like a college student, and he was a real hippie. But I do remember though when David wanted to leave the show in the last season.
Oh, really?
And they brought over the neighbor kid, Ricky.
Oh, Ricky.
Right, he was like a little Hispanic kid, and he was adorable. I mean, he was like 3 years old or whatever, and he sang everything under the sun. They would at the end of the show for no reason. It would be like, "Oh, Ricky's come over," and then they would prop him up on the on the kitchen table, and then he would do like a song and dance number, like he'd do like Rockin' Robin or something. And I guess the idea was, well, when he leaves, we'll have this other cute kid and we'll groom him to
And it didn't really. I wonder what happened to
superstardom.
Ricky.
Maybe Danny Bonaducci punched him out or something. I don't know. Ricky, if you're out there, Ricky, don't lose my number. Anyway, that's it. Our discussion of the Partridge Family. We really didn't talk about the bus that much, their psychedelic bus.
Which was actually ripped off by the Muppets.
Oh, yeah, that's
the Muppet
right.
movie ripped off the psychedelic bus.
And the Partridge Family ripped it off Ken Kesey. So there you have, maybe they were all on acid. That would explain everything. Although Lori would smile more if they were more on acid. Anyway, that's it. The exclusive film video report.